Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing your favorite hero, the one who was supposed to be full of hope, covered in blood, looking less like a savior and more like a terrifying monster. This isn't an evil clone. This is what happens when the world forces Superman's hand. This story comes from Joe Kelly's issue 775 of Action Comics, which is considered one of the greatest single issue Superman stories ever published that asks the question, what happens when Superman becomes the last person people want to be? Not because he's weak, not because he's outdated, but because he refuses to kill. The story opens with a terrorist attack in Libya, a genetically enhanced monster tearing through the city, and Superman is racing to stop it, but he is too late. A new team called the Elite gets there first, and they don't just stop the threat, they obliterate it along with a huge chunk of the surrounding area in about 4 minutes flat. The Elite are led by Manchester Black, a telekinetic Brit with a grudge against traditional superheroes, and his crew includes Kokaz, who channels electromagnetic energy, Menagerie, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, who has metamorphosis abilities allowing her to take control over alien life forms known as the Symbies, which can be formed into many various shapes and weapons, and the Hat, who wields a magic hat that acts as a gateway to another dimension. And while Superman views them as murderers, the public response is shockingly split. Back at the Daily Planet, reporter Jack Ryder fiercely defends them, arguing that traditional heroes like Superman just lets villains break out of prison to repeat their crimes. And a public poll reveals a stunning 32% approval rating for the Elite's lethal actions. Even world leaders like Lex Luthor chooses to wait and see, recognizing that the Elite command a terrifying biblical scale of power that rivals Superman himself. And the tension escalates in Tokyo, where the Elite executes Samurai Roshu. And when Superman demands they stop their lethal campaign, Manchester Black mocks him, arguing that reality is often bloodier than comic books, telling Superman that his golden age of ideals are obsolete. And he gives Superman an ultimatum to step aside and let them scrape the earth free of scum or get off the way. Superman returns to Smallville, deeply troubled. He witnesses children openly admitting that they want to grow up to be like the Elite because it's fun to kill bad guys. And realizing that everything he stands for is being perverted, Superman knows he has to make a stand, even if it means facing an enemy capable of splitting the moon. Superman then challenges the Elite to a final showdown on Jupiter's barren moon on Io, away from innocent civilians. The battle was initially very one-sided, with Kokaz, Menagerie, and the Hat unleashing their full power against Superman. Manchester Black uses his telekinesis to induce a stroke in Superman's brain, mocking his old-fashioned devotion to truth and justice while Superman twitches in agony. And suddenly the dynamic shifts when Superman vanishes into the shadows and begins tearing the Elite apart, and this part is really brutal. He unleashes a toxic counterattack that neutralizes Menagerie, and then creates a vacuum that collapses the Hat's lungs. Then he speeds past Kokaz before Kokaz could even blink. And then he cornered Manchester Black, and for a moment the story seems like it is arguing that Black was right all along, that even Superman will cross the line when he is pushed hard enough. And then Superman coldly tells Black that he looked into his brain and used an invisible scalpel of heat vision to give him an instant lobotomy, stripping him of his powers forever. Black then screams in horror, crying out that Superman is a degenerate, no better than they are, and that the whole world just saw that. But it was all a brilliant and calculated plan. Superman actually drops his terrifying facade and smiles. He didn't lobotomize anyone. He merely delivered a focused concussion on Manchester Black, which allows him to not be able to use his powers anymore. And the Elite are all completely alive and bound for a prison ship. Superman then deliberately showed the world exactly how ugly, terrifying, and dark a world ruled by unbridled vengeance would actually be. And as a defeated Manchester Black vows to keep coming after him from his dream world, Superman delivers one of the most definitive lines in comic book history. And I quote, "Dreams save us, Dreams lift us up and transforms us. And on my soul, I swear, until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice becomes the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever. So, let me know what you guys think about the message Joe Kelly wanted to convey with Superman here. Was he right that traditional heroism and absolute restraint are the only things keeping us civilized, or did his critique of anti-heroes miss the mark in a world that often demands harsher justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know if you think Superman's dream is worth fighting for, or if it's just a beautiful fantasy.